Set.
This sniper just took a shot at an armed fugitive holding a family of 5 hostage in their home.
My family's being held hostage.
The gunman, Joseph Anthony, is a man with a purpose. He has a vendetta, and he's going on a rampage, planning to kill his ex-girlfriend and multiple other people who wronged him in the past. Police don't know how far he's gotten on his list of targets, and if they don't capture him here, this family could be next.
Running across the freeway! Let me see your hands!
All units, I'm gonna set containment. We're gonna wait for the helicopter. All units, hold your position.
Dial fuck in, right? It's a showtime. Yep. Okay.
Start out, go, go, go.
One more. Police! Police! Police!
The air in Farmington, Utah, on the morning of September 11th, 2021, was heavy with a silence that only exists when a neighborhood is holding its breath. On a suburban street known as Tuscany Grove Circle, the typical sounds of a waking community were absent. Instead, the area was saturated with silent figures in tactical gear, their attention locked onto a single, unremarkable front door. This was no longer a routine patrol. It had become a localized crisis where the margin for survival was being measured in millimeters. In the final hour of this standoff, a specialized marksman was faced with a technical challenge that would haunt any professional in the field. Through a high-powered lens, 2 silhouettes were visible on a porch. In the low light of the early morning, they appeared nearly identical. Both men were of a similar height and build. One was a father who had spent 7 hours in an exhaustive effort to safeguard his family. The other was a man on a 48-hour path of total volatility, a subject who had already bypassed multiple police cordons and demonstrated that he had no intention of a peaceful resolution. The identification had to be flawless. A single error would not just be a failure of the mission. It would be a catastrophic loss of an innocent life. This was the peak of a high-speed manhunt that had already involved reckless pursuits and a violent carjacking. The subject, 34-year-old Joseph Manhard, had essentially vanished from the grid, only to reappear in the one place no one expected, the home of a family who had never met him. But to understand how this quiet cul-de-sac became a theater for a high-stakes tactical decision, we have to look back at the 48 hours that led here. We have to follow a trail of evidence that began with a reported kidnapping and a series of escalations that law enforcement struggled to contain. It was a race against time across multiple jurisdictions, defined by a suspect who seemed to be moving with a specific, targeted list. This is the forensic reconstruction of the Farmington standoff, an investigation into tactical restraint, survival psychology, and the final, definitive second that ended a 48-hour rampage. If you value these professional deep dives into the mechanics of justice and the tactical reality of major investigations, consider subscribing to the channel. We strip away the sensationalism to bring you the cold facts and the investigative truth behind the cases that change the way we look at community safety. To understand the final confrontation on Tuscany Grove Circle, the investigation must first look back to September 8, 2021. The sequence of events began not in Farmington, but in the neighboring city of Layton. It was here that 34-year-old Joseph Anthony Manhard shifted from a person of interest in local property crimes to a high-priority fugitive. The initial report involved an incident with an ex-girlfriend. According to investigative records, Manhard allegedly forced the woman into a vehicle at gunpoint. The situation was critical, and it only de-escalated when the victim managed to jump from the moving car to safety. This escape provided law enforcement with their first concrete lead, a name, a vehicle description, and a clear indication of escalating volatility. A statewide alert was issued immediately, but Manhard proved difficult to track. He was experienced in avoiding detection, moving between jurisdictions, and utilizing a network of associates to stay one step ahead of the grid. By the evening of September 9th, the search intensified. Dispatch received a call from Manhard's own brother. The tone of the call was one of genuine concern, not just for the public, but for the family itself. The brother informed authorities that Joseph had surfaced at his residence, but the encounter was far from a social visit. He reported that Joseph appeared to be under the influence of narcotics and was making statements that suggested he had reached a point of no return. Specifically, the brother noted that Joseph was searching for his brother's girlfriend, expressing an intent that suggested he was settling perceived debts. This phone call was a pivotal moment for the Davis County Sheriff's Office and local police departments. It provided a psychological profile of a subject who was no longer acting out of a desire for survival, but rather out of a desire for confrontation. Officers were warned that Manhard was armed with a handgun and had explicitly stated he would not be taken back into custody. As September 9th turned into the early hours of September 10th, the investigation faced a frustrating series of near misses. Patrol units in Bountiful and Centerville reported sightings of a white Kia Optima, which had been linked to a recent carjacking involving a female victim. In that incident, the perpetrator had approached the woman, produced a firearm, and discharged a round through the driver's side window to force her out of the vehicle. The ballistics at that scene confirmed the subject's willingness to use force without hesitation. Despite a coordinated effort involving spike strips on Interstate 15 and multiple pursuit vehicles, the white Kia managed to vanish near the Farmington border. The subject had abandoned the vehicle near a set of train tracks, effectively transitioning from a vehicular flight to a tactical one on foot. He was now a ghost in a residential area, moving through backyards and over fences in total darkness. As the sun began to set on September 10th, investigators were forced to expand their perimeter, unaware that the subject had already selected a target, a home that offered the tactical cover he needed to prepare for his final act. By 1 a.m. on September 11th, the search for the subject had reached a state of high-intensity containment. While law enforcement worked the perimeter of the abandoned vehicle near the train tracks, a different reality was unfolding just a few blocks away at the Samuelson residence. The family was asleep, entirely unaware that the subject had leveraged the darkness and the neighborhood's layout to find a point of entry. The breach occurred through a window in the basement. Investigative reports indicate that the subject moved through the lower level of the house before ascending to the main floor. The first contact occurred in the master bedroom. It was a confrontation defined by immediate, high-stakes coercion. The subject was armed and visibly unstable, a condition later attributed to a high concentration of illicit substances in his system. He gathered the family members together, the father, the mother, their daughter, and the daughter's boyfriend, forcing them into the living room area. What followed was a 7-hour psychological chess match. The father, Chris Samuelson, recognized early on that any overt resistance would lead to a catastrophic outcome. He adopted a strategy of de-escalation, speaking to the subject in a calm, measured tone to build a temporary level of rapport. During these hours, the subject's behavior was erratic. He alternated between moments of lucidity and periods of drifting in and out of consciousness. It was during one of these periods that the subject expressed a desperate need for specific household items, including aluminum foil, which he intended to use to consume more of the substances he carried. Despite the danger, the family remained observant. In a remarkable display of situational awareness, one of the Samuelson daughters, who had been in a separate area of the basement during the initial breach, remained undetected. Realizing the house had been compromised, she managed to quietly exit through a window and fled to a neighbor's house to alert authorities. This was the moment the investigation shifted from a search for a fugitive to an active hostage rescue operation. Back inside, Chris Samuelson saw an opportunity to further reduce the number of people at risk. Using the subject's own disorientation against him, Chris convinced the man that he needed to leave for his scheduled work shift to avoid suspicion from the neighbors or his employer. Remarkably, the subject agreed. At approximately 6:45 a.m., Chris was allowed to walk out the front door. The moment he cleared the threshold, he was intercepted by tactical teams who had already surrounded the property. He provided the first internal intelligence of the morning: the number of hostages remaining, the specific type of firearm the subject possessed, and the subject's deteriorating mental state. As the sun began to rise, the perimeter tightened. The SWAT teams now knew exactly who was inside and what they were up against. But the most volatile moments were still ahead. The remaining family members were now alone with a subject who was becoming increasingly frustrated as the effects of his substances began to peak. If you have watched this far and haven't subscribed, you are missing out on the most detailed forensic breakdowns on this platform. We spend hours scouring police transcripts and court documents to ensure you get the absolute truth, not just a dramatized version of events. If you're choosing not to subscribe, leave a comment below and tell us why. Is it because you prefer shallow storytelling over deep dive facts? For those who value the truth, hit the button now so you don't miss the conclusion of this investigation. By 7:30 a.m., the atmosphere inside the residence had shifted from a tense standoff to a series of chaotic, life-or-death physical altercations. With the father now outside providing intelligence to the authorities, the subject, Joseph Manhard, began to lose his grip on the situation. His physical state was deteriorating rapidly due to the substances he had consumed throughout the night, leading to moments where he would drift into a semi-conscious state while still holding his weapon. It was during one of these lapses in his alertness that the hostages saw a window of opportunity. In a desperate bid for survival, one of the female hostages lunged for the subject's firearm. A violent struggle ensued on the living room floor as she attempted to wrest the weapon from his grip. During the scramble, the firearm discharged. The projectile struck the subject in the lower extremity, but the injury did not incapacitate him. Instead, it triggered a surge of adrenaline that allowed him to regain control of the weapon. The situation then escalated to its most harrowing point. Having reclaimed the firearm, Manhard aimed it directly at the hostage and pulled the trigger. In a turn of events that forensic analysts later attributed to a mechanical failure, the weapon did not fire. The handgun had malfunctioned at the critical moment, likely due to a clearing issue or a jammed casing from the previous discharge. This technical failure provided the split second needed for the hostages to retreat slightly, though they remained trapped within his immediate reach. Outside, the tactical teams heard the discharge. The sound changed the entire nature of the operation. Negotiators, led by specialized crisis teams, intensified their efforts to establish a dialogue. They utilized a loudspeaker system to communicate directly with the house, attempting to steer Manhard toward a peaceful surrender. Their primary goal was to draw the subject toward the front of the house and away from the interior rooms where the tactical teams had less visibility. For the next hour, a delicate psychological tug-of-war took place. The negotiators spoke with a calm, deliberate authority, repeatedly instructing Manhard to show himself at the front door with his hands visible. They used specific verbal cues designed to lower his defensive posture, promising a safe path out if he complied. Inside, the subject was torn between the instinct to hide and the pressure of the surrounding forces. He eventually began to move toward the entryway, using the remaining hostages as a human shield to mask his movements. The precision required for what was about to happen next cannot be overstated. From a neighboring structure, a designated marksman had established a line of sight on the front porch. The team was waiting for a single moment of separation, a gap of just a few inches between the subject and the innocent family members he was holding. The resolution of the entire 48-hour manhunt now rested on the ability of the negotiators to convince Manhard to step across the threshold and into the light of the morning. If you're watching this and you still haven't hit the subscribe button, you're essentially choosing to ignore the most meticulously researched true crime content available. We put in the work that others won't, digging through ballistic reports and tactical logs to bring you this level of detail. If you're going to walk away without subscribing, at least have the courage to go to the comments and explain why you prefer surface-level storytelling over the actual facts. For the rest of you who value professional investigative depth, subscribe now to ensure you see how this tactical nightmare finally concluded. The clock reached 9:07 a.m., marking the final seconds of a standoff that had pushed both the Samuelson family and law enforcement to their absolute limits. Guided by the persistent commands of the negotiators, the front door of the residence finally opened. Joseph Manhard emerged onto the porch, but he did not come out alone. He remained in a tactical position, utilizing the mother and daughter as physical barriers between himself and the perimeter teams. The visual data available to the officers at that moment was critical. They could see the subject was still armed, and his movements were erratic, characterized by the unpredictable physical sway common in individuals under heavy chemical influence. From an elevated position in a nearby home, Officer Jared Tedahara of the Salt Lake City Police Department held his position. His objective was a single, clear point of identification. The difficulty lay in the proximity of the hostages. The subject was maintaining such a tight grip that for several minutes, a safe resolution seemed impossible. However, as the negotiators continued to apply verbal pressure, demanding that the subject show his hands, a momentary lapse in Manhard's positioning occurred. He shifted his weight, creating a narrow window of separation between his silhouette and those of the family members. In that fraction of a second, the threat was neutralized. The precision of the movement ensured that the family members were physically unharmed during the transition. Immediately following the discharge, tactical units flooded the porch. They moved with a practiced fluidity, shielding the mother and daughter and physically removing them from the immediate vicinity of the subject. Within seconds, the hostages were swept into the safety of the armored vehicles parked at the edge of the driveway. The primary objective of the mission, the safe recovery of every civilian member of the household, had been achieved. The investigative work did not end with the resolution on the porch. The scene was immediately secured for a multi-agency forensic processing. Detectives recovered the subject's firearm, which confirmed the earlier reports of a malfunction. A casing had indeed become lodged in the mechanism, preventing further discharge during struggle inside. Additionally, search teams located the substances Manhard had been consuming throughout the 48-hour spree. A subsequent toxicology report performed during the autopsy confirmed the presence of lethal levels of fentanyl and methamphetamine, providing a scientific explanation for his increasingly detached and violent behavior. In the months following the incident, the Davis County Attorney's Office conducted a comprehensive review of the events. A 27-page formal report was released detailing every communication and tactical decision made during the morning of September 11th. The investigation focused heavily on the lack of body-worn camera footage from the marksman's position, eventually determining that the equipment's internal buffering system had failed to capture the moment of the shot due to the duration of the stationary surveillance. However, based on the corroborating testimony of the spotter and the forensic ballistics, the district attorney officially ruled the use of force as legally justified. The Samuelson family's journey through that night remains a case study in psychological resilience. From the father's calculated de-escalation tactics to the daughter's physical struggle for the weapon, their actions played a definitive role in their own survival. The case of Joseph Manhard concluded not as a successful evasion of the law, but as a testament to the coordination required to resolve a high-stakes suburban crisis. If you've reached the end of this documentary and you're still not a subscriber, you're essentially benefiting from hours of professional research and forensic analysis without giving anything back to the creators who made it possible. We provide the depth and accuracy that the fast food, true crime channels ignore. If you're going to scroll away without hitting that button, leave a comment and explain why you think this level of investigative detail isn't worth a single click. For those who respect the facts and want more professional breakdowns, subscribe now to stay informed on the cases that define modern justice.
Go in the basement.
After SWAT teams arrive and are quickly briefed on the situation, they begin coordinating their next steps, preparing to establish containment and open negotiations with Joseph. But before a plan can fully take shape, someone is spotted exiting the back door of the Samuelson home.
She's 60. So they're FaceTime. Is there a female coming out one side? So, okay.
Miraculously, the daughter who'd been sleeping in the basement somehow managed to slip outside without Joseph ever noticing. And without realizing it, Joseph's hostage count is now down to 3. With that update, commanding officers begin reassessing the situation in real time. They review everything Joseph has done over the past 36 hours and determine that he has shown a complete disregard for human life and willingness to escalate when under pressure. Based on that assessment, commanders make a critical decision. SWAT teams are authorized to use deadly force if a clear opportunity presents itself. From this point forward, the priority is clear. Protect the hostages at any cost.
Dial the fuck in, right? It's a showtime. Yep. Okay? Dial in, make sure we're squared away. Salt Lake City's in now as well. Now, let's do it press shuttle. Back out, do it again. Go.
So, we're throwing a bang as soon as the door gets open.
Okay. Suspect. I don't know where we're going yet. Hold on.
So don't be by Burnett.
Oh, do I need hands left? Everybody see this? Right? Facing east. Garage is on the right. That's where the man door is going to be. That's going to be our secondary. Okay? Front door opens in. This is the living room we got set up. This is the kitchen area. Okay? Everybody good with that?
Wrong side on that.
Yep, the wrong side of that. Right. All right, Phil Preach, we're going to practice to the right. Is it behind the stairs?
Wait, if daughter snuck out window, that means the bottom window is open, right?
This is the fastest way to get into the It's the fastest way. We have a flashbang. We're going to reset his OOR loop and come in. Let's keep practicing. Wherever he's at in this room, you guys are going to fucking kill him. 2 bangs. 2 bangs?
You want to do 2 bangs?
No, 1 bang.
Just one?
Just 1 bang.
With deadly force authorized, a coordinated plan is put into motion, one designed to end the threat and extract the hostages safely. A sniper will be positioned nearby, ready to take Joseph out if he's exposed and a clear shot presents itself. At the same time, negotiators will make contact with Joseph, work to slow him down, gain compliance, and convince him to release the hostages and surrender peacefully. If that fails, they have one secondary objective: get Joseph to step outside. Because if he does, even briefly, it could create the opening the sniper needs. With 3 innocent lives at risk, there's no room for error. One wrong move, and everything ends tragically.
We're good. Thanks, man.
The officer assigned as the sniper is Jared Tadahara, a long-serving police officer who moved from patrol and street crime work into a specialized SWAT sniper role. After arriving on scene, Tadahara conducts a quick tactical assessment and moves into a nearby house facing the Samuelson home. From here, he has a clear view of the backside of the house, a position that allows observation without being easily visible to the suspect and provides a safe distance to avoid interfering with perimeter officers. But Tadahara isn't working alone. Every sniper has a spotter, a second officer responsible for range calculations, wind assessments, and most critically, confirming that the shot is clear before Tadahara pulls the trigger. Across the street, negotiations continue. For the past 3 hours, officers have been trying to reason with Joseph, urging him to surrender and release the hostages. But Joseph refuses. He won't let anyone go, and threatens to kill the entire family if officers attempt to force entry. With 3 people at fatal risk, a precise sniper shot becomes the only way to end the standoff before it turns deadly. But before Officer Tadahara gets that opportunity, he receives crucial information that makes things a lot more risky.
Is there a difference between suspect taken? Suspect appears to have a shorter, wider nose. Okay, a slightly rounded face. Okay. If suspect has a vascular stain, that would be.
Unfortunately for Tadahara, the situation just became far more complicated. One of the hostages inside is a male who closely resembles Joseph. One wrong shot and an innocent person could be killed. With that in mind, Tadahara shifts his position to a different house across the street. He needs an angle facing the front door of the Samuelson's home. The shot at this distance travels roughly 75 to 100 feet and takes less than a second from decision to impact. At the same time, negotiators reassess their approach. What's been alarming them throughout the standoff is that Joseph hasn't made any traditional demands. He didn't ask for money, car, or safe passage. Instead, he's simply refusing to let anyone go. That behavior begins to make sense once investigators provide more insight into Joseph's condition. According to them, his mental state has been deteriorating for hours. He's been heavily using drugs for days, his thinking is no longer rational or strategic, and his behavior is increasingly volatile. Most concerning of all, Joseph isn't releasing the hostages or surrendering. His endgame appears to be killing people he blames for all his problems, then forcing police to kill him or take his own life. Because of this assessment, SWAT officers remain positioned far back to avoid provoking him. Negotiators then ask Joseph to step outside the front door with the hostages to prove they're still alive. If he does, it will give Tadehara a clear view and a chance to take the shot. It takes time, but Joseph eventually agrees to walk to the front door with the hostages while warning he'll shoot them if officers make any aggressive moves. After 2 days of chasing Joseph, officers finally have a chance to bring his violent rampage to an end. With the SWAT team nearby staged for immediate entry, Officer Tadehara prepares to take the shot. He stabilizes his rifle using a bipod, a small stand attached to the gun, then lies prone, steadies his aim, and slows down his breathing. A few seconds pass, and then the front door begins to open.
Shot out. Go, go, go.
Shot out, go, go, go.
Go, 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 go. Right. I think we're good. What else do you need? I think we're good right now. Okay. Unless they start calling for bodies. This door. This door. One more. Police! Gotcha, we got him. Hands up, bro.
I mean, I don't know, maybe a piece of his skull hit me or something, I don't know.
You're good.
You sure?
Yeah, you're good. Let me see.
Maybe a piece of his skull hit me, but something hit me, can I point? Something hit me right here.
I see.
Come on out. What do you see? He's okay.
Yep, he's okay. Grab him. You okay? You got anything?
Careful, she's shaking.
Yep, I got you.
Just hold on to me, I got you. You're safe. You are safe.
After more than 6 hours trapped inside with an armed, unstable man, the entire family survives. An outcome that, just minutes earlier, felt far from guaranteed. At the front door, Joseph Manhard lies critically wounded. Paramedics rush him to the hospital, but despite life-saving efforts, he's later pronounced dead. Investigators later determined that Joseph's actions were driven by a rapid collapse. His failed relationship and heavy drug use pushed him into increasingly violent and reckless behavior. By the end, he wasn't trying to escape or survive. He was acting like someone who had nothing left to lose.